They told you the moon was a rock, a lifeless sphere, a cratered, silent companion to Earth, dutifully reflecting sunlight and tugging at the tides. You believed them because why wouldn't you? It never blinked, never changed. It just was, hanging in the sky like punctuation to every night since humanity first looked up. But now, in 2025, the veil has finally slipped, and Michio Kaku, one of the most grounded minds in theoretical physics, could barely hold back tears as he laid it bare. The moon is not what we thought. It never was.
If you're still watching, subscribe now. You crave more than answers. You seek what lies beyond. Subscribe now and be part of the few who never stop searching.
New data, obtained through quantum resonance satellites launched under a joint NASA-JAXA project, wasn't supposed to detect anything revolutionary. The mission's original scope was to create a high-resolution internal map of the moon to better understand its composition. Instead, it exposed something impossible. Beneath the regolith and impact-battered surface lies symmetrical, angular chambers. Not caves, not lava tubes. Structured geometry. Vast internal hollows arranged with mathematical precision, some miles across, with right angles and mirror dimensions. These structures aren't geological. They're engineered. And then came the heat. Localized, rhythmic pulses of thermal energy, radiating from specific points within the chambers, measured with infrared and near-field spectrometry. Not remnants of volcanic activity. Not solar radiation. These were too focused, too stable. They pulsed like a heartbeat. Some even suggested they were time-coded, controlled, a system functioning beneath the moon's surface, hidden for eons, still alive. But this was just the beginning. When seismic data from past lunar missions was reanalyzed through the lens of its discovery, the old anomalies suddenly made perfect sense. Apollo 12, 14, and 16 had all conducted impact experiments, sending spent rocket stages crashing into the lunar surface and recording the resulting moonquakes. At the time, NASA noted that the moon rang like a bell for over an hour. It was dismissed as a quirk of the moon's dry, fractured crust. But the new interpretation is far more unsettling. That resonance wasn't natural. It was structural, like a reverberation through metal, through design. Even more damning was the discovery of ultra-reflective materials within the lower chambers, metallized composites that show behavior inconsistent with any known lunar mineral. Some responded to specific electromagnetic frequencies by vibrating at harmonics that match coded signal patterns. Far more than just passive metal. It behaved like memory, like circuitry, like an intelligent skin. And what of the moon's orbit itself? Perfect tidal locking. Its exact placement allows for total solar eclipses so precise they're mathematically poetic. Something no other moon in the solar system accomplishes. The odds of this being a cosmic coincidence are almost zero. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun and 400 times closer to Earth than the sun. It appears exactly the same size in the sky. That ratio isn't just uncanny. It's unnatural. This isn't chaos. This is curation. Michio Kaku, who had long held a skeptical view of fringe lunar theories, could no longer dismiss them. We are looking at an object that behaves not as a satellite, but as a mechanism, he said, voice cracking on a live stream that was later pulled from major networks. It's as if we're standing on the precipice of discovering we've never truly been alone. And then, the cover-ups began to crack. Whistleblowers from retired NASA divisions came forward, anonymously, leaking declassified Apollo footage that had been sealed under extraterrestrial intelligence review protocols for decades. The footage revealed strange luminous events, pulsing lights emanating from deep lunar fissures on the dark side, flickering in synchronized bursts. Astronauts in hushed radio chatter described mechanical echo, sounds reverberating through the cabin walls. One even whispered, "There's something down there and it's not dead." Coupled with this came historical review, re-examinations of ancient texts and oral traditions. The Sumerians spoke of the moon being placed in the sky by the gods. The Zulu of Africa have long believed the moon was brought to Earth from another place. Ancient Mesoamerican records describe a time before the moon and a silver egg that arrived in the sky, shifting tides and awakening the watchers. We've dismissed these as myth for centuries. But now, with metallic skeletons beneath the surface and impossible orbital physics, the line between mythology and history begins to blur. More chilling still were recent observations that Earth's magnetic field began showing anomalous fluctuations during specific lunar alignments, localized disturbances that echoed the frequency of the moon's internal pulses. Satellites went offline briefly. GPS systems twitched. And then came the human effects. Sleep cycles disrupted. Reports of mass lucid dreams. People across the globe began sketching the same geometric shape, an interlocking spiral nested within a cube. A symbol not seen in any ancient human culture, but one now detected, etched faintly into the lower metallic layers of the moon's surface. Microscopic, hidden, until now. So what does it all mean? Some believe the moon is a monitor, a satellite not of Earth, but of its creators, watching, waiting, collecting data. A long-running observational outpost designed to track the progress of human evolution. Others believe it's a stabilizer, an ancient terraforming tool that makes Earth viable for life by regulating axial tilt and oceanic motion. But a growing number are beginning to fear something else entirely, that it's a machine, a dormant, partially active intelligence system that has remained silent until now, that the lunar anomalies, heat pulses, magnetic interference, synchronized signals, are not random. They're part of a countdown, a boot sequence, and that something beneath the surface may be waking up. There are even darker theories, that the moon was never built for Earth's benefit, but as a control mechanism, that its gravitational influence, perfectly tuned, may be more than just a tide puller, that it may subtly regulate thought frequencies, suppressing certain neural oscillations, ensuring humanity stays docile, trapped in a cognitive loop. If true, that would mean we're not evolving naturally, that something or someone is shaping our mental development from above. But why? That's the question burning in every classified meeting, every late-night observatory session, every hushed congressional hearing. Why build something so massive, so ancient, so perfect, and hide it in plain sight? Theories abound. Some say it was placed by an ancient progenitor race, those who seeded life across the stars and monitor their experiments from afar. Others argue it's a failsafe, a cosmic ark, storing genetic codes and memory banks in case Earth self-destructs. Still others fear it's a prison. Not for us, but for something inside. The darker side of recent signals reveals a new fear, that the pulsing frequencies from beneath the lunar surface, those low-frequency electromagnetic waves, might not be transmissions. They might be containment fields. And something inside is testing the locks. Kaku, once a champion of optimistic scientific inquiry, now speaks with trembling caution. We must be very careful, he warns. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed again, and we may have already turned the key. The implications are staggering. If the moon is an ancient mechanism, still active, potentially sentient, then humanity is no longer the apex intelligence on or near Earth. We're inhabitants living beside an artifact we don't understand, a system whose functions may reach into every facet of our planetary balance. And it's listening. We've spent decades bouncing radar off its surface, slamming debris into it, landing probes, rovers, and people. What if that was the wake-up call? What if every impact, every vibration, every burst of radio chatter triggered a slow cascade within the system, one that we mistaken as geological quirk or harmless signal decay? Now, it seems the moon is answering. It begins subtly, not with explosions or lasers, not with ships descending from the dark side, but with silence, a different kind of silence, the kind that's too perfect, too engineered. Across every observatory, every sensor-laden satellite pointed at the moon, there's the same quiet murmur echoing to the data feeds. Everything is functioning normally, and yet nothing is. Readings are still coming in, but they feel sterile, like someone or something has taken over the signal chain. It's like looking into a mirror and realizing it's no longer your reflection. The moon is no longer just a celestial body. It has become a subject, a participant, and worse, a variable. Mission controllers begin reporting strange latencies in their uplinks during lunar orbit passes. Transmissions take just a fraction longer than expected. A nanosecond delay here, a pulse deviation there, small enough to be dismissed, until it starts forming a pattern, a rhythm, a response. When the low-frequency burst started intensifying, deep under the surface of Mare Tranquillitatis, seismic sensors lit up in unison, across a wide radius. An impact event? No, there were no meteors, no vibration from above. These were from within, oscillating, repeating, not chaotic, structured, as if the moon had an internal voice, as if it were speaking, and no one could understand it. Not yet. A team at the European Space Agency quietly compiled months of these acoustic anomalies and overlaid them onto a global lunar resonance map. The result was astonishing. The pulses formed a lattice, not random echoes, a grid, a web of energy flowing through subsurface nodes in perfect spacing, the kind you'd expect from power distribution systems or control mechanisms. It was no longer a question of whether the moon was artificial. Now the question was, who designed it, and why does it seem to be activating now? Simultaneously, strange patterns began showing up in Earth's ionosphere. Subtle disturbances aligned exactly with the moon's orbital perigee. Electrical storms spiked in isolated pockets of the planet. In regions beneath lunar zenith, strange auroras appeared at latitudes where auroras should not exist. Some described them as beautiful. Others said they heard things beneath the light, low whispers in their skull, not voices, just presence. Then came the dreams, widespread, identical. People from entirely different cultures, thousands of miles apart, reported nearly identical visions. Standing at the base of an impossibly tall black spire, set on a gray landscape beneath a black sky, and above them, the moon not in the sky, but cracked open, hollow, glowing from within. Some of them were terrified. Others awoke with tears running down their cheeks, claiming they had been shown something sacred, something final. Neuroscientists tried to debunk the phenomenon as mass psychogenic hallucination, but fMRI scans showed something troubling. A specific region of the brain, the pineal gland, was activating in ways never seen before, almost like a receiver. Something was being heard, and no one could explain why only now. Why here? Why us? Meanwhile, the quiet war began. Satellite arrays at Arecibo Green Bank and the Russian RT-70 facility were quietly retasked. Dozens of classified telescopes, allegedly decommissioned, suddenly came online. Surveillance wasn't focused on space. It was now turned back toward the moon under strict blackout. And still, the moon responded. Not with aggression, but indifference. It pulsed. It shimmered faintly. And, for the first time, it blinked. A sharp, controlled burst of visible light erupted from the far side, caught only by a lunar orbiter operating under autonomous parameters. The pulse lasted 3 seconds. It was pure white, geometric in shape, triangular, with a concentric circle formation rotating inward as if unlocking. The signal was never repeated. But what followed was worse. Radio silence. For 23 hours following the pulse, no deep space transmission, civilian or military, penetrated beyond lunar orbit. No satellite beyond the moon received or transmitted any signal to Earth. Not failure, not interference. Just nothing, as if a sphere of silence had been drawn around Earth. When comms finally resumed, the message embedded in the carrier frequency was subtle, hidden in the noise, but real. 7 tones, repeating, musical in nature, structured like a signature or a key. The composition matched no known cosmic radio phenomena. No pulsar, no quasar. It wasn't natural. It was composed, deliberate, a signature that's now been dubbed the lunar chord. It became clear to those who were listening. This wasn't just a wake-up. It was an introduction. The next phase was more direct. Laser mapping satellites reported a sudden topographical shift in one of the deepest craters, Paracelsus C, located on the moon's far side. A central structure had emerged, or rather become visible. Not new, just unhidden, like a veil had been lifted. The structure was enormous, octagonal, with a mirror dome at the center, 500 meters wide, and surrounded by hexagonal latticework that seemed to absorb all light that touched it. It did not reflect light. It ate it. Attempt to image it directly failed. LiDAR system scrambled. Infrared returned noise. Whatever it was, it didn't want to be seen, or it wasn't designed for us to see. And yet, it had become visible. A probe was quickly greenlit. An unmanned mission meant to orbit, image, and possibly touch down near the structure. Code name, Velum 1. But before it could launch, strange gravitational anomalies struck Earth's Lagrange monitoring stations. Tiny tugs, barely detectable, but coordinated, as if invisible hands were adjusting the orbit of something else. And that's when astronomers spotted the second object, not orbiting Earth, not even the moon, but following it, a black body, roughly a kilometer in diameter, trailing the moon in perfect synchrony, hidden in its shadow for decades, maybe longer, a companion to the companion. And it was waking up too. Now, Michio Kaku, long praised for his eloquence and optimism, could no longer hold the party line. He stood on the stage of a global science symposium and quietly said, "It's not just that the moon may not be what we think. It's that our entire history, our very understanding of where we come from, may have been curated, observed, maybe even manipulated." He didn't have to say more. The room had already gone silent. Some say the moon is a sanctuary. Others fear it's a vault. And a few, those who see the dark implications, believe it might be a key to something we were never supposed to open. The moon has not moved. It hasn't blinked or spoken or changed shape. And yet, something has changed. In us, in the way we look at it, in the way it looks back. The world as we know it has entered a phase of silent recalibration. You feel it, not in breaking news or government addresses, but in the way every conversation, every scientist, every thinker now hold their breath when someone mentions a moon, as if they're waiting, not for data, but for permission, for some unspoken signal that we've crossed into the next chapter of history, not written by kings or presidents, but by something older, quieter, something buried beneath the surface of that pale gray disk we thought we understood. The object trailed behind the moon, call it a sentinel, call it a mirror, call it what you like, has shifted. It now orbits at a slightly altered angle, no longer directly behind, but just enough to be caught by deep space telescopes on Earth's night side. Its surface is lightless, not matte, not absorbing. It simply does not reflect at all, as if it denies existence in our visible spectrum by choice, like it chooses when to be seen, and only because it wants us to see it. And what does that mean? It means this was never a passive story. The moon isn't a relic. It isn't dead rock. It's not a chapter in Earth's history book. It's the one holding the pen. And now, finally, it's begun to write. Telemetry from ancient seismic sensors, long dismissed as useless, begins to activate without human prompting. Devices powered down for decades suddenly ping. Old analog tapes housed in forgotten NASA storage vaults now emit strange electromagnetic signatures. Not interference, not decay, but signals. Messages embedded within recordings once thought silent. Binary codes woven into static. Geometric harmonics rising from background hiss. Some of these tapes were never even from the moon. They were earthbound. They were ours. And now they're part of it. Everything, it seems, has always been part of it. Reports begin leaking, not through press conferences, but through whistleblower forums, encrypted drops, old colleagues too tired to keep secrets. Astronauts from Apollo missions who swore silence begin talking to old friends, sharing strange recollections they once dismissed as exhaustion or fear. The sensation of being watched from just outside the lander. Strange glimmers along crater walls. The sense not of danger, but profound, overwhelming presence. Some recall hearing mechanical tones through their helmet comms, never recorded on official logs. One astronaut breaks down describing a sound he heard while alone during a lunar EVA. He called it a song made of static and sorrow. It brought him to his knees on the surface. He never told NASA. He thought he imagined it. Now he knows he didn't. More alarming are the patterns forming across unrelated data sets. Lunar magnetic anomalies align with tectonic stress patterns on Earth. Sudden, unexplained surges in brainwave activity among sensitive individuals align with perigee passes, as if something from within the moon is synchronizing not just machines, but minds. And then the dreams evolve. They stop being images. They become instructions, mathematical formulas, ones most dreamers don't understand, begin appearing on whiteboards in labs from Berlin to Beijing, all identical. Codes etched in notebooks by children who never studied physics. Maps, coordinates, designs, all leading to the same place, the South Pole Aitken Basin, one of the oldest, deepest impact sites on the moon, and, as of 2 weeks ago, the location of a slow, rising thermal signal that now pulses at regular intervals, like a beacon, like a countdown. Inside the Pentagon, the meetings are no longer theoretical. Plans labeled ARC-9 and Protocol Luna Cognita are open for the first time since the Cold War. These weren't defense protocols. They were contact protocols, one so dangerous they were locked away under presidential directive, not in case aliens arrived, but in case the moon ever changed, because we always suspected, at least some of them did, and now that suspicion has become confirmation. Michio Kaku, once at the forefront of theoretical physics, now speaks with a haunted cadence of a man who's glimpsed behind the curtain. His most recent interview was pulled from streaming within hours, but the transcript survives. In it, he says, the moon is not just older than Earth. It is older than time as we understand it. It holds a memory that isn't linear. It is the observer, the architect, and maybe even the test. And it has finally begun to remember. What does that mean? It means this isn't just about the moon. It's about us. The moon might not be a machine watching humanity. It might be a machine designed for humanity, to shape us, to test us, or perhaps to keep us contained. You don't build a prison with bars. You build it with constants, with gravity, magnetism, reflection, myth. You build it so the prisoners never know they're inside, until they start to evolve, until they begin asking the wrong questions, until they begin sending signals into the dark. And then, one day, the wardens come back. Or worse, they never left. And so the world holds its breath, not because something has invaded, but because something has stirred, something that has always been here, watching, sleeping, dreaming, and now, finally awake,